But at some point, these things are gonna break through, and we're gonna see, historical lifetime wealth made, I believe, through some of these coins.
XLM and XRP tax-free crypto policy. We're going to break that down throughout today's episode. And Johnny Krypto, we're going to be describing the bullish momentum coming into many of our favorite altcoins. As I'm seeing a lot of unwarranted pessimism in the crypto space, it is projects like XRP, XLM, and HBAR that I believe will outperform in this regulated environment. Now, the title of today's show is an XLM and XRP tax-free crypto policy, which is set to be implemented here inside the United States. And what would this mean? There would be no capital gains tax on projects created inside the United States as long as they were headquartered and operating here in 2025. Now, why would this be beneficial? Every hedge fund around the world would look at the digital asset class and say, hey, we're able to keep more of our gains if we're paying less taxes. And by investing in some of these American blockchain products, we are able to legally avoid many of these tax products that exist in the market today. But we're going to start off with an important video on the Paul Barron podcast discussing how many of our favorite assets are on the precipice of something historic, tax-free crypto policy here inside the USA.
His agenda to get people investing, building, buying, manufacturing, all the above in the United States. And so one way to do that is to say, hey, if you're a crypto investor, buy some tokens that are based out of the United States. And when you go to sell it, after 12 months, by the way, capital gain is after a 12-month hold. So you traders don't get, gleamy-eyed here. But after I hold this token for at least 12 months, I might get a reduced capital gains rate. And that's going to help. And why would he do that? Because it stimulates the economy in the United States. It creates jobs in the United States. What extent? But that's the theory. And I think in a perfect world, it'd be exciting. I just hope that the tokens I like are, going to be here in the US.
Yeah.
Always number one, my investors out there, you invest in what you know is best. Who cares if I can save between 15 to 20% on the tax bill, tax rate? I want to buy what makes freaking sense. Then it happens to align with a US-based opportunity, great. But let's not chase that. Let's chase what we know and is going to make us money, and then hopefully they coincide.
And there's some great advice, Johnny Krypto, but when we talk about the projects that we believe will be successful in the long run, it's always the projects that I believe will benefit from regulation. Whether it's the tokenization of real-world assets, the implementation of stablecoins and smart contracts, or just the expansion of blockchain products inside the United States, we're going to see more and more Wall Street companies defer to these XRP, XLM, and HBAR ecosystems because they benefit from every single one of those narratives. You heard it within that clip. He believes that we are going to see zero capital gains tax for crypto products built inside the United States. And it's not just Mark Kohler, a very famous tax expert you guys can check out his YouTube. It is also Eric Trump. Eric Trump confirmed that US-based projects like XRP and HBAR will eventually benefit from zero capital gains tax, while non-US-based projects may face up to a 30% tax by the end of the Trump administration. If you're enjoying this content, smash that like button. And specifically, this is for projects that were founded inside the United States. XRP, Solana, Cardano, HBAR, Stellar, and so on. Johnny, what's your main takeaway here? And do you agree with the thesis that as more companies begin to adopt blockchain products, they're going to lean into the American-made digital assets?
Well, first of all, Abs, whenever you're a president of a country and you're trying to grow your GDP, you're trying to create jobs, the first thing you do when you're trying to blow up a new industry or give it a chance to grow, and you want to be the leader in your country, is you give a tax incentive. It's literally the number one. It's like the playbook when solar came, same thing. Tax incentives everywhere the U.S. government was given because they wanted the industry to grow. They wanted the innovation to happen here. Well, what did Trump say, Abs? Trump has gone on record many times to say what? That the U.S. will be the crypto capital of the world. How do you do that? You can't just say that. It doesn't work that way. Now you have to do something. The best way to do that is to put out a tax-free policy, a subsidization policy. And I will not be surprised at all. I really, truly do think Trump is going to do that. And I like what that man said there. He was like, buy what you like. Don't buy what's going to be tax-free. I totally agree with that. You definitely want to buy assets that you believe are going to grow in the future. Listen, if they're not made in the USA and you're going to pay tax on them, a friend used to say to me one time, Zab, if you're paying taxes, you're probably making money. And that's a good thing. But the way to think about this, here's some good news, Abs. If you do invest in some other coins that you like or technologies that aren't made in the USA, and you might end up being taxed, well, I got some good news for you. If you invest in ITrust Capital IRA or a Roth IRA like I have done, now I don't pay taxes on that growth in that Roth IRA. So the reality is there are things that you can do out there to be able to avoid paying taxes by just investing in the right vehicle. A Roth IRA, you hold it for 5 years, wait till you're 59 and a half years old, and you won't pay a single penny in taxes. And yet it doesn't have to be American made. So the point is there are different things you can do. Click on the link below, sign up for a 30-day free trial with iTrust Capital, and make sure you use promo code GEC9 and you will get $100 with that.
And Johnny, it's not just about how much money you make. It is how much money you keep from each crypto bull market. And what do we see time and time again? Successful investors have dry powder sitting on the sidelines, ready to buy these assets at lower prices when we head into a bear market. If we can learn anything from the major collapse that we witnessed over this weekend, it's that when this bear market comes in, there will be a major cascading effect all across the crypto space. And that will work to our advantage during a bull market. I did a long form breakdown on the show this morning, Johnny, where I was talking about how the XRP market multiplier, it worked against us over the weekend. It will work in our favor during a bull market. For every $1 that was pulled out of XRP over the weekend, we saw the market cap depreciate $1,200. But here's the optimism. When we typically see a bull market take place, every new dollar that is put into XRP has about 189x multiplier. That means that if 1 billion new US dollars came into XRP, we would see a market cap increase of $189 billion. And that's why it's so important to focus on the tax incentives and how our listeners can take advantage of many of these products. We are going to play a video from CLAVER later on in the episode, so be sure to stick around for that very exciting content. But here's some other words of advice from Mark Carler on how to make the most of these new tax policies.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the point is you look at some of the projects that we talk about here on the show quite a bit. Most of them are, well, quite a few of them are based here in the US, even though it seems as though there's a lot of the blockchain companies now vying for the idea to make sure that Trump and the administration knows they're a US-based company, Ripple. You got guys over at XRP, obviously, and then places, projects like Solana, Avalanche, et cetera, that have kind of gone, Hedera is another one, that have kind of gone in this direction.
There you have it, guys. So again, it's the American-based blockchain products that are set to have the largest advantage here. And we're already seeing a major capitulation from the largest companies on the planet. BlackRock is pro-crypto. Citibank just made a major announcement. That is the famous bank that debanked Brad Garlinghouse several years ago during the Biden administration. They now had a major announcement this morning that they are going to debut crypto custody services in 2026. We have the NASDAQ going to 24/5 trading. So again, what is the entire thesis that we're hammering home during today's episode? It is American-made crypto projects that are set to have the largest price appreciation. And when you think about the XRP price chart, Johnny, there is a ridiculous correlation between what happens with XLM and what happens with XRP. And we're showing our listeners over 10 years of data dating all the way back to 2014. The blue line is XRP. The red line is XLM. And what's the obvious correlation here? When one of these projects moves, so does the other. And I always focus on this bullish pennant that we had right here, because what was that major news, Johnny? That was when there was a rumor of BlackRock filing for an XRP ETF in the state of Wyoming. And we saw the XRP price chart go up about 10, 12% on the day. That's not what's interesting. What's interesting is that there was zero correlated news for XLM and Stellar, and we saw the same exact price appreciation later on that afternoon. So my belief is that when these American-made projects like XRP begin to decouple from the crypto market because of real-world utility and real-world demand, it is projects like XLM that are less focused on that will also experience that same price appreciation. If you're enjoying this content, smash that like button. Johnny Krypto, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is I remember that. Do you remember when the XRP lawsuit settlement announcement came out and XRP went up? So did XLM. XLM wasn't even being sued. Like, wait a minute. What? It just fortifies the point of what you just said, is that there's no correlation in terms from a news perspective, but yet they are highly synced together. There's a lot of the thesis of why. I don't think it matters. I think just look at the data and you can clearly see when XRP goes up, XLM is going up. They're both going for the same ride. That history has proven that, and I think you're going to continue to see. And again, the technologies are very, very similar. But you know what? Don't forget, there are industries out there in big companies like Franklin Templeton apps that went and adopted the XLM technology without even seller knowing. because it was that good and they wanted it. So I think there's going to be use cases for both XLM and XRP that are going to get, that you're going to, because again, the way I envision this whole technology coming to fruition is there isn't going to be like one winner. It isn't be there's just one coin and everything else goes away. Like you're hearing a lot of people say that. So let me help people understand. When you're hearing the elites and everybody talking about, you know, most of these coins are going to go away, they're going to go. What they're saying is there's like millions of them now, but there's only maybe a good handful or maybe, you know, 100 of them that are really good that have real world styles. And apps, those are going to end up coexisting together and forming the basis of our whole entire new blockchain system. The way the world works, all our back-end technologies, they're all going to be running on it. Why am I wasting time telling you this? Well, because it's important that you understand that you want to be investing. There are other horses in the race. XRP, XLM, Cardano, HBAR, Solana, Sui. These all Sui, as my man Alex Becker likes to say. It's a Sui. But you know, these are definitely the ones out there. I'm not French, but anyway, these are the ones out there that they are going to all coexist together. And that gives me excitement, gives me hope for the industry that there is going to be plenty of opportunities to make profit in this space.
Well, guys, we're seeing veteran traders like Peter Brandit make this exact same shift where he analyzed the XLM and the XRP price chart. Both look bullish right now. And his exact statements were that XLM is a bull waking up for a nap, while XRP just had a minor reaction to a much bigger theme of things. But we're going to show you guys not just our opinion, Jake Claver's opinion about how you guys can set yourself up for success during this crypto bull market. So now that we understand American-made digital assets are going to have an advantage throughout the entire Trump administration, it is our listeners' responsibility to start planning for the future and setting yourself up for success when it comes to keeping the profit that occurs in your portfolio. We like to implement the strategies such as Merlin or the ITrust Roth IRA, where you pay 0% taxes on those gains. But Jake Claver is getting a lot of attention for his analysis and how our listeners can apply these same principles. If you're enjoying this content, smash that like button. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. You're going to get an update every single day. But let's listen to what Jake Claver has to say about our listeners keeping their wealth after this bull run.
Today's video, we're going to go through all the reasons you might want to move your digital assets into an LLC previous to price appreciation. Let's say, you know, over the bear market here, it could be a breadth of assets. Maybe you've got XRP, maybe you've got some Bitcoin, maybe you've got some Hedera Hashgraph, maybe you've got some Ethereum, maybe you've got Solana, whatever it is. You anticipate it's going to go up in value, and maybe it already has. And so you're starting to see those gains, and now you're looking to take profits at some point. There's a lot of people out there that discourage taking profits, or they say to sell it all. I think that's dependent on your financial position and your long-term goals. And again, you should consult with a wealth manager before making those decisions, and a CPA to be aware of the tax consequences. Let's say, you know, you've got 100,000 of asset X and you've bought it at 50 cents and it goes to $100 a piece. All right. So now we've got $10 million and you spent $50,000 to make that investment. You get a really big capital gains tax, especially if you haven't held the assets that long. Let's say you bought them over the bear market here in the last year. Let's say, again, you know, you've got $10 million, you paid $50,000 or you invested $50,000 to get that $10 million. When you sell, you're going to be taxed, you know, especially you're going to be taxed at whatever income tax bracket you sell for. So let's say, you know, you want to sell $500,000 of it or $1 million of it. You're going to be looking at 37.5 and almost, you know, potentially up to 50%, depending on what state you're residing in, that you're going to owe in taxes. But if you have those assets in an LLC, now we have the full breadth of the tax code, where we can do some fun stuff to be able to offset some of those tax implications. So let's say you wanted to buy a vehicle. Well, you need to be able to drive and meet with people to discuss investments and go look at properties and the other stuff that you might invest in with the profits off of your digital assets. So you might want to buy, you know, something over 6,000 pounds, which under Section 179 of the tax code, you could write off or fully depreciate. Again, that's something that we're looking to Trump to reinstate this year. So you can use accelerated depreciation. Let's say you put, you know, it's a G-Wagon. You want something nice. Maybe it's a Range Rover, okay? Those are over 6,000 pounds. That's why I see a lot of people that do well in business driving them. So you put 40,000 down, you finance the other 200,000. You can write off that full 200,000 against your income for the year, and you only had to spend 40 to get that full write-off. Some of the other ways that we look at helping people is setting up insurance policies. And this is really a fantastic way to do it because you can invest the assets themselves in kind into the policy. It takes a large amount of assets to do that, but we do have solutions for people that are looking to do it. If the assets are inside of an LLC, then you could use key employee insurance to be able to set that up because you have an insurable interest in the company. If you weren't there to make the investment decisions, the company itself wouldn't operate, right? And so by funding that policy in kind, you could, let's say you do want to sell $1 million. All right, well, maybe you move another $1 million and fund a policy with that amount into the insurance policy. You're going to be able to offset all of those capital gains. It's a little more complicated than that. I'm simplifying things just for the video here, but that's what we help people do at Digital Wealth Partners and Digital Ascension Group, the family office. We provide a full scope of services for people in that capacity. So there's other things that you can do with the LLC as well. If you're going to travel to any conferences that have to do with crypto or any other types of investments, I always try to correlate my trips with other things that I want to do, business I want to do in the region or the area. I'm able to write off the plane flight there, maybe some hotel and accommodations, potentially the other meals, if there are meals with other parties that I'm doing business with, any educational resources that you might have. So if you're paying for publications or podcasts or Patreon or anything that might help you make better investment decisions, all of those would be a write-off for the business. And this allows you the most flexibility on the other side of it to move the assets into a trust. So let's say, you want to set up an asset protection trust, either domestic or offshore, it wouldn't matter. The LLC, it's a single member LLC is what you want to set up. If you set up a limited partnership, you're going to be running into a change in basis and some tax implications, especially if there's been an appreciation in the assets before you move them in there. So that's why it's better to do it beforehand. But you could gift small portions of equity in the LLC to friends, family, other people that you wanted to involve or help. And you could get a valuation done on the LLC that would bring down the value of the equity, not the value of the assets, but the value of the equity.
Guys, if you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. And the most important thing that our listeners should understand, there are so many different strategies that we can implement to give ourselves an advantage during the crypto bull market. And I wouldn't overemphasize what we've witnessed over these last couple of weeks. This major price depreciation here for XRP, it only lasted about an hour. And we covered this in depth yesterday, that this is the exact same event that occurred back in 2017 before XRP's price chart was off to the races, creating historic new all-time highs like we have never seen before. So with us having the understanding that we are on the precipice of something historic, now is the time to create your plan, and now is the time to set yourself up for success during this crypto bull market. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, and we'll see you all in the next one.